Alan, you mentioned the threat against Donald Trump, and it's pretty extraordinary, the revelations over the past couple of days, that Donald Trump secretly boarded this smaller military aircraft using an airport catering truck as a cover. This is to depart the NATO summit in Turkey in July while using an older Air Force One jet as a decoy. Can I get your reaction to this? It's very rare that this happens, right?
It sounds like a really, really good movie,
Yeah, it does.
or serial. Putting the president in a food truck. It's absolutely remarkable. But there was credible information, and the question you have to ask is: even if he wasn't on the plane, did he really want? Would he allow the plane to take off and be shot? The threat was a shoulder-aimed rocket. I think, though, that the president's plane has rocket-repelling technology, but this was a serious threat. And look, they tried to kill President Trump over and over again. It's amazing to me that he's still willing to negotiate with people who tried to kill him. But he has the ability to survive. Look, he survived two other assassination attempts, and he's still thriving, so we'll have to see what happens. But I don't think we know the end of the Iran story, and I think it could have a really terrible ending. More likely, it's going to be a muddled through ending. We're going to see some deal, and it's going to postpone things. And 5 years from now, 6 years from now, we'll still be worried about a nuclear Iran, and we'll still be worried about straits. And in the end, I think they're going to have to think of alternatives to the Strait of Hormuz. I think the Strait of Hormuz is no longer a viable pathway for so much of the world's oil to go through, because no matter how this ends up, Iran will have too much control over the world economy, and that is not a healthy situation.
I want to get your thoughts on Gaza. What do you make of Netanyahu's rejection of the peace plan? Do you think there's a potential political element in this, given that Netanyahu is up for re-election?
Well, there's always a political element in everything in a democracy. That's the difference between a democracy and Iran. Democracy, you have to worry about what the people will think. But I think what Netanyahu is doing is holding out for a tougher deal in which he doesn't have to withdraw Israeli troops until Hamas completely disarms. And if Hamas really wants peace, and if they want to disarm completely and give up their willingness to repeat October 7th over and over and over again, then I think Netanyahu will go along with the deal.
But how realistic is it? Are we really going to see Hamas disarm?
Well, I don't think Hamas has, to paraphrase President Trump in relation to Ukraine, I don't think Hamas has the cards. I don't think it has much leverage. I think it wants a deal. And I think the good people of Gaza and the good people of Palestine would like to see a deal. And the people of Palestine don't like Hamas. And so there'll be pressure from inside for Hamas to accept the deal and to disarm. Hamas's future can only be if it becomes political and gives up its arms. But if it's unwilling to do that, we're going to see a continuation of, terrorism, rockets, and counterattacks. More people will die, and that's really unfortunate.
How would you describe the relationship between Netanyahu and Donald Trump at the moment?
Oh, I think it's mutually respectful, but I think Trump wants everybody to know that he's in charge and that Netanyahu will do what he wants him to do. And if Netanyahu doesn't do what he wants him to do, obviously the United States has great leverage. I know them both quite well. And I know that they have mutual respect for each other. They're both very tough. They're both very political. And they're both very, very, very smart. Nobody should ever underestimate the intelligence either of Netanyahu, who's smart in an educational sense, in addition to being smart in a street sense, and Trump, who has street smarts and is clever in business sense and knows how to deal and negotiate. They're both very smart in somewhat different ways, but they have more in common than almost any other two political leaders in the world today. So in the end, they're going to get along, although like any couple, they're going to fight with each other and they're going to disagree. And some of the disagreements will be public, some of the disagreements will be private. The first time I ever met Donald Trump, he asked me to convey a message to Benjamin Netanyahu.
What was the message?
I'm very close to. I've known Netanyahu since 1970, and I've known Donald Trump for a long time. And of course, I was his lawyer in the first impeachment. So I'm in a good position to assess the two of them, and I have great respect for both of them. And criticism of things that each of them has done. Nobody is beyond criticism.
Can you tell us the message?
It was just about the peace process. It was about trying to encourage the peace process. Look, that's what both of them long for. Israel has wanted to live in peace since 1948, when they accepted the two-state solution and all the Arab countries invaded them and rejected it. All Israel ever wants is to live in peace in that region. If you just leave them alone, they could produce so much good technology, medical care, other things. It could be a real gift to the world. And the Palestinian people are wonderful people. And if they can live in peace with a two-state solution, I think the world would benefit enormously from it.
Hey, things seem to be a bit better in Lebanon. I'd love to get your assessment. There are reports, I should say, that Hezbollah is running out of money. Hezbollah is facing its most severe financial crisis in years, according to a New York Times report. What's your assessment of what's happening there?
Well, Hezbollah has no money. It only gets money from Iran. And if Iran doesn't have money, Hezbollah doesn't have money. The people of Lebanon hate Hezbollah. They would love to see Hezbollah out of Lebanon. They would like to see peace between Israel and Lebanon. That's a real possibility because Lebanon is one of the best countries in the Middle East, one of the most forward-looking countries, one of the most beautiful countries. The people are wonderful. They have managed to get along between Christians and Muslims for centuries. And if there could be peace between Lebanon and Israel, wow, that would be a real step forward. And the only way to do it is to get rid of Hezbollah.
I want to talk to you about your new book, the very latest one, Founding Fathers and One Jewish Mother. So talk to us about this. It draws on the parallels between the founding of the US and the founding of Israel. I'd love to know what you discovered, and also I believe the Jewish mother is in the title, of course, is a nod to your own family background.
Well, also that, but also Golda Meir, who I got to meet in 1970, and she served me tea and chicken soup. And she was a wonderful, wonderful woman. It's remarkable how similar the founding of America is to the founding of Israel. You know, both started with declarations and then had to defend their writings with the sword. Both had arguments between whether they wanted to be an agrarian country. Ben-Gurion and Jefferson wanted their countries to be agrarian. Netanyahu and Hamilton wanted them to be commercial. They both had problems regarding the earlier indigenous population, although the Jews are obviously the indigenous population of what is now called Israel or Palestine. But the similarities are absolutely remarkable. I bet I could also do a book including the similarities to Australia. I mean, think about that. Israel was founded by Jews who lived in Europe, but whose ancestors came from originally Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, but Western influences prevailed. Australia and New Zealand were founded by Englishmen who didn't have connection to the land, but they managed to build, great democratic countries. And so there are so many similarities. And the book also, I'm very proud of the book because everything in it, all the documents I own. I've been collecting documents for years. That's my hobby. So I have early copies of the Declaration, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. I have early copies of Herzl's letters about the founding of Israel. I have a first edition of Herzl's book, The Jewish State, and they're all pictured in this book, which is a coffee table book. So I think a lot of people would enjoy reading it. You don't have to be American or Israeli or Jewish to enjoy it. I think it tells a wonderful history, and it also leads to the conclusion: if only we could make peace. What a contribution that would make to the world, because both Israel and the United States are two great countries that have produced so much innovation medically and intellectually, Nobel Prizes, you name it. How much more if they could beat their swords into plowshare, and their nuclear weapons into nuclear medicine? What a gift it would be to the world. So I think whatever side you're on, and I don't think their side should be taken, whatever position you take, it should be in favor of peace, of a two-state solution, of living side by side, and of continuing to do great things for the world. And we should try to put an end to the violence that has plagued all of our countries and will continue to plague it as people resort to violence more and more in this world, unfortunately.
Well, your book has come at such a good time when there is this anti-Israel movement that is taking place around the world in parts of America. We see it here in Australia as well. But how fascinating that you have collected documents for such some time. What is it that you hope your readers will get out of this book?
Well, a lot of things. First of all, I think they will understand that the distinction between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism is often non-existent, that people who single out only the nation state of the Jewish people from all other countries in the world, they ignore the genocide that's going on in Sudan. They ignore what's going on in many other parts of the world, but they focus only on the one nation state of the Jewish people. That's a form of international anti-Semitism. You can be critical of the government, the particular government, particular policies, both of the United States and of Israel. You can be critical of the policies of Australia, but nobody says Australia shouldn't exist or New Zealand shouldn't exist. New Zealand shouldn't exist. But people say that Israel shouldn't exist. That's what from the river to the sea means. And calling for the end of a country, the politicide of a country, is just wrong. And I would hope that people listening to the show would understand that you can be critical of a country, critical of its actions, without calling for its end. If you really say that any country that was founded the way Israel was founded has no right to exist, you have to ask questions about New Zealand. You have to ask questions even ultimately about Australia and the United States. And none of us wants to ask those questions. What we want to do is move forward. And I think that Israel has shown that you can move forward in a way that helps the world. And I hope that people understand that Zionism is not a dirty word. Dirty word. It means only your belief that Israel has the right to exist as the nation state of the Jewish people, the only nation state of the Jewish people in a world in which there are so many Christian states, Muslim states, and other religious states, and Israel, which gives equal rights to people of all religions, has the right to exist as the nation state of the Jewish people.
Alan Dershowitz, before I let you go, I have to ask you about 2028 in America. You're, of course, a lifelong Democrat. What's your read when it comes to 2028?
I'm now no longer a Democrat.
Yes.
I can't support the party of Mamdani. I can't support the party of some of these extreme radicals, El Said, people who say, 9/11 was deserved by America, people who campaign with people who say that. I've given up on the Democrats. I was a Democrat since I was 14 years old.
Wow.
I'd like to come to the Democratic Party, but for that to happen, they have to give up their extreme commitment to hard left actions and move more to the center, which the Republicans have done. They have an extremist group too, Tucker Carlson and others, but they've marginalized them, whereas the Democrats have embraced the extreme, often violent hard left. That's why, tragically and with great sadness, I left the Democratic Party, but I'm waiting for an opportunity to return. I have a new book coming out next month, endorsed by President Trump, called Why I Left the Democrats and So Should You, Confessions of a Reluctant Republican. So at the moment, I'm going to vote against the Democrats more than I am voting for the Republicans. But I don't want to see the Democrats in power with some of the current people that they are embracing.
Well, I suspect you're not alone there. Alan Dershowitz, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. It was brilliant to have you on Power Hour. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're a great interviewer. You asked all the right questions. Thank you for having me.